guys, here we are with another Surly bike, another new release. This one is the Surly Grappler. Just came out, it's got a new color, dust bunny purple, and I think it looks absolutely great. We just got a couple of these in the shop, got them put together for you, so we're gonna tell you all about it. In our previous videos, we've been talking about how each new bike compares to the previous bike. Behind me I have the previous version of the Grappler in Subterranean Homesick Blue. But in this case, spoiler alert, there's not a lot of other changes to talk about. This bike is spec'd out exactly, as far as I can tell, like the previous version of the Grappler. So I can't really talk about the changes there. However, we're gonna go into an in-depth discussion of the Grappler. We're gonna talk about all the specs. We're gonna talk about who this bike is for. And lastly, we are going to talk about the differences between the Grappler and the Surly Krampus and the Surly Karate Monkey. All of these are sort of considered mountain bikes. The Grappler is unique in that it's a drop bar mountain bike. Although interestingly enough, Surly lists this as a touring bike. So they have it listed on their website as a touring trail bike, along with the Bridge Club, the Ogre, and also the Long Haul Trucker. So it's not included with the mountain bike category, which I think is interesting. But we're gonna go into all of that in depth, so stay tuned for that. But before we do, why don't you give this channel a like and a subscribe? Really helps people find this channel. It helps us out. Also, this video is brought to you by our bike shop, Ottawa Bike and Trail. We are a Surly Intergalactic Destination Dealer, which means we have a wide inventory of Surlys for you to check out. So check out our website, check that out, or love to have you visit us here in Ottawa, Kansas, not Canada. So check that out, but without further ado, let's get into the Surly Grappler. Decided to take this bike out on a little ride on the Flint Hills Trail just to put this little video together, tell you all about it, so check it out. Oh man, pretty chilly out here. Chilly, cloudy, windy. Not the best day for a ride. All right, so let's talk about the Surly Grappler. And just to warn you, if at any point in time I refer to this bike as the Ghost Grappler, just ignore that. I do like the old name, but understand why they had to change it due to some sort of trademark. But yeah, this is the Surly Grappler. And obviously, this is a drop bar, trail bike or mountain bike. Surly uses both terms when they describe this bike. This bike happens to be a size medium, so if you're curious, size medium. Most of the demo bikes that we keep in stock are going to be a medium, although I do try to keep a selection of large and smaller bikes also. But let's start at the top. So the first thing, we have Salsa cow chipper drop bars. And one thing you'll notice with this bike is it was designed to get the bars up, so it's got a pretty high stack. Gets the bars up so that your riding position when you're in the drops is more comfortable. Now, ignore the spacers that we have here. I get this question a lot. Why so many spacers? Well, the reason is this bike is for sale and you can only cut the fork once. So what we do is wait till the customer purchases the bike and we will adjust the stem to whatever height they desire and cut the fork at that point. So the spacers are just temporary, but it does show you how high you can get the bars if you want them higher up, which a lot of people that are going to ride this bike do. Very comfortable riding position. So we've got Salsa cow chipper handlebars, which have a really nice flare. They're also fairly shallow, so your riding position in the drops is very comfortable. So I like that. All right, so let's talk about the frame. I'm gonna compare the frame geometry a little bit to the Karate Monkey later in this video, but a couple of standout features about this frame. Number one is that it is non-suspension corrected. That means it is not meant to handle a suspension front fork. So we have the Surly dinner fork here with the 4 mounting points, and then the mounting points up at the top for a rack. The other standout feature of this frame is, of course, you got the rear rack mounts, but also 2 little accessory mounts back here. You could put some water bottle cages here, or a little tool pack. I think it's kind of a neat feature. The other thing you'll notice is that we have the vertical dropout, which you can use to run a single speed if you would like. The other thing to note is that this bike does come with a dropper post, and it has internal routing for the dropper post cable. Also, we've got a mounting point for a front derailleur. This is meant to use a top loaded front derailleur, so you can mount a derailleur here if you want a 2x. All right, so let's talk about the drivetrain. We've got Microshift Advent X 1x10 drivetrain. I do like the Microshift Advent X stuff. It's solid as a rock. It does have a clutch, and we found it to be very dependable, very reliable, and just works. So definitely, if you're a Shimano SRAM diehard, don't worry about it. This is a fantastic drivetrain, and you're not gonna miss your SRAM or Shimano, but if you do, you can always swap it out. But we've been really happy with the Advent X stuff. I think it's great that there's an alternative to Shimano and SRAM out there on the market. This 1x10 is a 32 tooth front chainring and 11/48 rear, and we've really maxed out the range of the drivetrain, so you're not gonna be able to go with a larger rear cassette, not that you would probably need to. As I said, you can run a 2x drivetrain on this bike. I haven't set one up before, but it'd be really interesting to see how that would work out. All right, so we've got our Advent X front shifters up here. I really like the feel of these. I think they're very comfortable. You've got a dropper post lever on the left-hand side, so if you want to drop your seat, you got that. All right, the tires on this bike are Terravale A-line 27.5 by 2.5. With a 27.5 wheel, you can run a 2.8 inch tire on this bike, but we've actually also stuffed a 3-inch tire on our Ghostbusters Ghost Grappler. I'll show you what that looks like. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but depending on the tire, you might be able to shove a 3-inch tire in a grappler. So you can run a 29-inch wheel on this bike, but your tire size is going to be limited to about 2.1 inches. All right, let's talk about the front brakes. So we have Tektro Mira cable actuated disc brakes with a 180 millimeter rotor in the front and a 160 millimeter rotor in the rear. Rear spacing on this bike is the Surly Knot Boost spacing, which means that you can run a 142 millimeter rear hub or a 148 millimeter rear hub, which I think is pretty nice. I've actually built a couple of wheels up for this bike, and I like having that flexibility. All right, guys, I have set up 3 bikes here. We've got the Surly Krampus, Karate Monkey, and the Grappler. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how these bikes are the same, how they're different, and which bike you might want to purchase. So I'll kind of go through it step by step. First of all, The Krampus and the Karate Monkey, I have a separate video on these two bikes talking about the differences. So if you're interested, go back and check that out. The main difference is that the Krampus has a 29-inch wheel and the Karate Monkey has a 27.5-inch wheel. So you can go back and review that and learn more. So for purposes of this comparison, I'm mostly going to be focused on the Karate Monkey and the Grappler so that you can kind of understand the differences. Both of these bikes come stock with a 27.5-inch wheel, so it's a more apples to apples comparison. So for now, we'll not talk about the Krampus and just focus on these two bikes. So the first thing to consider is, in my mind, the fork. So on the Karate Monkey and the Grappler, the biggest difference is that the Karate Monkey is suspension corrected. So we've got a very tall front fork, which means you can swap that fork out and run a suspension front fork. In fact, you can buy a Karate Monkey stock with a suspension front fork. So if you think in the life of your bike you're going to want to run a suspension fork, it's an easy choice. The Karate Monkey or the Krampus are your best bet. The Grappler, you're not gonna be able to run a suspension fork. So once you get that out of the way, I guess the next question is, all right, well, what about the handlebars? The Grappler is a drop bar bike and the Karate Monkey is a flat bar bike, which is true. However, I do have a lot of customers that have swapped out the handlebars on the Grappler and run a flat bar. So you can certainly run a flat bar on both bikes. And in fact, you can even run a drop bar on the Karate Monkey. So I would say the Grappler is better suited for a drop bar because of the high stack. You can see the head tube on the Grappler is really made to get the handlebars up high, whereas the head tube on the Karate Monkey is meant to handle that suspension fork and not as much stack. So you've got, if you look at the geometry comparison, you'll see that the stack is about 23 millimeters higher on the Grappler. So if you do think you're gonna prefer a drop bar, I would go with the Grappler. But if you do decide you want a flat bar, you can run a flat bar on both bikes, not a problem. All right, so the next thing to think about is tire size. So the Karate Monkey comes stock with a 3-inch tire, whereas the Grappler comes with a 2.5-inch tire. And as I mentioned before, you struggle a little bit to fit a 3-inch tire in the Grappler. So if you do want a larger tire and you like riding the fattest tire you can possibly get, you're gonna get a little more tire clearance with the Krampus or with the Karate Monkey. All right, so let's talk about gearing. So the Karate Monkey is geared a little bit lower than the Grappler. In the front chainring, we've got a 30-tooth front chainring versus a 32 on the Grappler. And then on the rear, we've got a 12-speed with a low gear of 51 teeth, whereas on the Grappler, we got a 10-speed and a 48 low gear. So you're gonna get a little more climbing power with the Karate Monkey. All right, so now the final question. How do you decide which bike is right for you? To me, it really comes down to what type of riding are you going to do. If you're someone who prioritizes distance, comfort, and speed, then I think the Grappler is gonna be a better bike for you, especially if you're gonna load the bike down, you're gonna do bike packing, and you wanna cover longer distances. The Grappler is going to probably be more suitable for that. If, on the other hand, you're a more traditional mountain biker, shreddability is important to you, agility, climbing power, and just generally someone who's gonna spend more time with traditional mountain biking, then the Karate Monkey or the Krampus is going to be better for you. But one thing to keep in mind is all three of these bikes are very versatile. You can modify them, make them your own, and they can do a lot of things. So if your riding habits change, if you decide you want to do something different, you can't go wrong with any of these bikes. Unless, of course, you want to run a suspension fork. In that case, you only have the Karate Monkey and the Krampus to choose from. The best way, in the end, to make a decision is to test ride all three of them if you can. That's why, as a Intergalactic Surly Destination Dealer, we try to keep demo bikes in stock We love it when someone comes in with one idea in mind, they ride all the bikes and they change their mind. I want to wrap it up just by saying happy holidays. This will probably be the last video before the end of the year. So I want to tell you all thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing, and stay tuned for more content. We're really got a lot of exciting things coming up, including a Surly Midnight special build and lots of other great stuff. So stay tuned for more. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next video.